All right. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming out today to our latest installment of Coffee with the Candidates. Today we are talking with Ms. Edith Carlin, who's running for State Senate District number 13. The way we've been doing these is we do a short little Q&A with between us, and then we turn you loose to go chat with everybody in the audience.
Sounds great.
So, first things first, biography, background information. Just give us a little brief spiel about how you got to here.
Okay, well, I graduated from LSU in 1987, and I married my husband, Kerry, that same year. And I graduated petroleum engineering and have worked in a number of different locations, chemical plants, refineries, paper mill, steel mill. I even worked offshore. Mm-hmm. I graduated from LSU when the oil market crashed, so I couldn't find a position in petroleum, so I didn't really spend time working as a drilling engineer or production engineer. I'm getting in the weeds with this. Anyway, I worked with consulting firms doing a lot of plant expansion, project management, dealt with a lot of budgets with other people's money. Had to solve problems. Couldn't just wait for someone to give me more money. I had to figure it out. And then about 17 years ago, my husband and I also started a church in Denham Springs. So I've worked with people. You think that ministry is preaching and praying when it's really walking with people through the most difficult challenges in their lives. With drug abuse, spouse abuse, people with foster children. I've been in courtrooms where people saw their children, sentenced for crimes that were related to opioid addictions. And I say that I've been in jail, but I haven't been in jail. I've visited jails. Sure. So I really have a lot of experience about, what the everyday families go through, working people. And I also have been interested in politics really had a burden for our government. I've been praying as a Christian for a number of years that God would raise up good people to run for office, and also to pray for the people that are in office, because many times people get in office and they have the right intentions, but they kind of lose their way. And so I never thought that I would be in the political realm. I'm like 55 years old, everything's going great. I work for an engineering firm. I take projects as I want to, so I have a lot of freedom. And then I got asked to run for office. And I thought, well, no, not me. I don't think that that's something that, just having to go meet strangers, I couldn't see myself doing that. But then I started thinking about my life and the skills that, being a problem solver. I mean, that's what I've gotten paid to solve problems. Mm-hmm. Working with people in the ministry, seeing how, everyday people live and what affects them, and being a leader in industry, but also in ministry. I started thinking, well, those are good skills to have as a politician. Sure. Or a legislator. So I jumped in, and Louisiana is really in a crisis, I think. We keep getting ranked 50th. We're always at the bottom of the list. I like to say, we can't get any lower unless Puerto Rico becomes a state, and then we come 51st. So we really need some people with some new ideas and some real world experience, and so I've thrown my hat in the ring.
Okay. Well, so this is kind of a question that I ask everybody kind of coming in, why they're running for the office that they're running for. So I'm curious to know why you're running for State Senate District number 13. Especially just because you were you had once announced for District 71 for the House race. So what makes District 13 the race you want to be in?
Well, first of all, it's where I live, so that fits. But yeah, I was going to run for the House seat, and I went to the Comeet River Diversion Canal groundbreaking, and I saw, we had the governor there, Garrett Graves was there, Senator Cassidy was there. We had all the legislators from this area except for the one from District 71. And it just struck me like, this is something that's important to us, and I thought he should have been there. And then people began to talk to me about the needs in the Senate. And the Senate has been the place where good legislation dies. We have a number of conservatives that are running for District 71. I was in the pack of conservatives, but we really didn't have a strong conservative running for the Senate. And that's what we need. We need some more conservatives, and not just Republicans, but conservatives in the Senate. So I stepped up and have been running ever since.
Okay. What do you think is the role of a state senator? Do you think it is to try to reflect your constituency's wishes to the best extent possible, or do you think it is to lead your constituency based on your own experience and the best information available to you?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think we live in a republic. We elect people to go and represent us. However, as y'all know, we have a lot of apathy in our culture, and people like to complain about things, but they're not very proactive. They don't know what's going on. So I think it's a mixture between the two, that you go and represent, but there's times that you also have to let people know, hey, this is what's going on, and I need your input, and you need to know what this course of action, how it will affect your life. And many times people don't understand. In fact, I just recently had someone talk about that they thought that like the amendments are very difficult to understand. So you need somebody that you trust that's going to educate you in a manner of like, this is the choices that need to be made. And then also, to be a leader from the area, using your experience. Like with me, I feel like too much policy is made without real world experience. They really don't know. We've got a lot of career politicians there, and no offense, we have a lot of attorneys, and they don't know what it's like. Like I feel like that I have that experience out there working in the real world, that I understand. I also grew up in a small business, which I failed to mention. My mother owned a feed and seed store, so I had to work very hard. And if anybody's ever worked in a small family business, you know that it's a strange environment, and small businesses have a difficult time making a profit, and the more government regulations that are put on them, or more taxes that are put on them, that just basically eats up their profits. And that's the economic small business. I think is over 53% is the basis of our economy here in Louisiana.
Yeah.
So with that in mind too, that I think with that real world experience of growing up in a small business, taking that to the Capitol will be beneficial for this district.
Sure. Well, kind of along those lines of talking about small business, I kind of feel that during election cycles, a lot of the conversation that revolves around business revolves around jobs and big business. What could you do as a state senator that would help foster a culture of entrepreneurship here in Livingston Parish as well as statewide?
Well, I believe, in my opinion, jobs are very important, and business is very important. And without the tax base, where are we going to fund the infrastructure? Where are we going to fund the entitlement programs or welfare programs if we don't have the taxes that are necessary? However, what my goal is to foster entrepreneurial efforts to get people off of welfare rolls and into business. There's a lot of great ideas that are sitting out there that people don't realize that if they had the right mindset, and the government would roll back regulations. Like for instance, in Louisiana, we are so overregulated with occupational licensing. You have to have if you have a crystal ball and you set it up on the side of the road and you're going to tell fortunes, you have to have an occupational license. If you're a florist, you have to have an occupational license. If you're a hair braider, and that's just another form of taxes, and it keeps people from making a living. And no one wants to live, with handouts. People want to be proud. They want to have purpose in their lives, and being business owners is a great way. You're your own boss, and you can make your own decisions, and you can succeed or fail, but it's your choice. And I think that the government needs to back out of some things so that more businesses would be free to start, small, starting out of your home kind of businesses, but also bringing businesses from other states here, and the industry that we have here would also have opportunity to expand and create jobs.
Sure. And so you mentioned doing away with some of the occupational licensing requirements. And of course, that definitely does lessen the burden on entrepreneurs. The flip side of that being that's missing revenue from local municipalities and parish governments and things like that. You also support the elimination of the corporate franchise tax. With the elimination of the taxes, how would you replace that revenue?
Well, if we create more jobs,
Mm-hmm.
then we expand our tax base.
Okay.
So if we roll back regulations to where businesses can invest in their companies, and in fact, in particular, I would like to see for this district, we live in a rural parish. I would love to see some business investment here, in rural parishes, actually across the state, to where we could foster more startups as well. So if you have businesses flourishing, getting taxes is not going to be an issue. We need to expand our tax base instead of making it small and narrow and high. We need to make it low and wide.
Okay.
And along with that, cutting spending has to go along with that. But I think that if we can foster business and grow businesses, then we're going to be able to work these issues out.
Okay. Let's talk about just kind of general priorities. So our state constitution. Our state constitution sets up the legislative session so that they alternate between general session and a fiscal session. So what would be your top general priority and what would be a top fiscal priority for you?
Well, in my opinion, as we've been talking, we've got to have a focus to where we can create jobs. And there's a lot of things that are going on now. In a general session, I would like to, first of all, see some tort reform, some really common sense tort reforms, because when you have to pay more for auto insurance, that comes out of your bottom line, and there's a lot of businesses that have fleets, trucks, and that comes out of their bottom line. And so if you're paying money towards insurance, then you're not giving bonuses, you're not giving wage increases, you're not increasing your employees, the number of your employees, and we pay the second highest auto insurance rate in the nation. So if we can do some common sense tort reform, then that would bring more insurance companies into our state. With competition, rates get lowered. And so I would like to see that. And of course, I would like to continue to work on the flood protection and drainage issues, to work with DOTD. Being an engineer, I have a different perspective than people that are running against me. When they get into the weeds with details, hydrological models, or river geomorphology, I understand that. So there's things that I could get involved with and help promote that and push that along. So I would like to do that. Find out where we are in detail and begin to champion those issues, because I think that we need some strong leadership at the state level. We've got strong leadership at the federal level. We've got Garrett Graves. I've been very impressed with him and his staff, what they've been doing for our area. And then the parish and the local guys, they're doing the best that they can, but we're missing really strong leadership at the state level. And that's why I'd like to take my experience and help bring some really solid forward movement on the flood protection and drainage issues.
Well, that kind of crosses off my flood question.
Okay, good.
as
We'll
well.
knock them off the
So, yeah.
multiples.
Well, good deal. Yesterday at the legislative forum that you attended with the Livingston Parish Chamber of Commerce, one of the kind of overarching themes that kept coming up in a lot of people's answers to the questions was kind of a mistrust of government and a confidence in government. What do you think is the most important thing that an elected official can do to help restore confidence in government?
Well, in my opinion, I'm a conservative. I'm not a career politician. I don't owe anybody any special favors. I guess I'm, more along the lines like Mr. Trump. He came from the outside, from a business background, so he didn't play politics. And I think one way we can restore trust is to do what we've promised to do, to not play games, promise people, I'll give you this or I'll do that, and then to get into office and do something different. And so I'm also a person of faith, and I think that integrity is one of the most important things to keep. And I've seen with Mr. Trump, he's kept his, he's done his best to keep his promises. Now, I don't like the way he tweets, but one thing I do like about him is he's kept his promises, and that's what we've elected him to do. We wanted him to keep his promises, and that's what I want to do. I want to go and keep my promises to the people, be who I am, so that trust can be restored.
Okay. Another thing that was brought up yesterday at the legislative forum was the idea of a call for a new constitutional convention, which you had stated that you support some form of. Do you think, what do you think specifically? Do you think it should be something more limited that just addresses fiscal issues, or do you think it should just be blown wide open and we should start from scratch?
Well, at this point in time, I don't have a crystal ball
Sure.
to see how things will work out, but we have some really we have some great need for structural change in our government. Our Constitution's bloated. It's like over 100 pages. There's a lot of policy in there. It's not a document that governs the way we have government. There's a lot of things in there because people haven't trusted politicians, and there's all these dedicated funds. I'm in favor of structural change because we're not going to change our state if we don't change the way we govern. We've got so much wealth in this state. We have oil and gas. We have deep water ports. We have the Mississippi River on the Gulf of Mexico. We should not be a poor state. But the reason we're poor, and we've got great people, the reason we're not doing well is because of the way we're governed. And we'll always be limited by our Constitution if we don't change our Constitution. Now the details, will it be legislatively? Will we elect delegates? Like I said, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have the answer to that. And I think it's one of those things that is going to, evolve. We'll know, okay, this is the way we need to do it. Sure. I'm just in favor of doing it. And we have a protectionist mentality in Louisiana. And, we always want to guard what we have instead of moving forward to where we could all prosper.
Sure. Another big issue coming up, so much of the legislature is going to be new faces next term.
Yay.
And all of those new folks are going to be responsible for redistricting after
Yes.
the 2020 census. So what are some of your thoughts on keeping districts fair and representative of the folks that are in them?
Well, like I said before, I'm not a career politician. I'm kind of an outsider, and so I'm not going in owing people things. I plan to go and do my job fairly with integrity, and this is a very important issue. 50 legislative seats in the United States will affect over 100 congressional seats. So this is a very big deal, and not only that, but is potentially this new legislative bunch will be able to redistrict in 10 more years. Mm-hmm. So this is a very critical issue. And I just plan to get in there and work. I love numbers. I'm being an engineer. I love numbers, so I just plan to get in there and work hard and also build relationships with people so that we can do our job with integrity, without strife, and be fair in the way we set these districts up.
Great. Well, I have one last question for you, and it
Okay.
comes from the Cavalier House Books job application. So we ask all of our potential applicants that apply here at the store to name 2 books that have most influenced their life, one fiction and one nonfiction. So how about you?
Okay. Well, I'm a pastor. I love the Bible, but look, I'll talk about a book. I think one of the books that has affected me is actually it's a 2-part series, but it's called God's Generals. And it's a historical book about people that did great things, like world changers in Christian history, and how those that failed and those that succeeded, and you can just see, that even though they were ordinary people, how God used them in the right way. And it just affected me because many times, you think people that do great things they're just really special people in some way, but these were ordinary people, and some of them changed nations. And so I just love that book. But the nonfiction, and I wish I could remember the author's name, is The Ugly American. And I read that when I was I think maybe 17 or 18 years old, and it's about it's a fictional work about the diplomatic service. It was written in the 50s,
Mm-hmm.
and it was about people in the diplomatic service that would go to these third world countries, and they would try to live like Americans. And it was during the Cold War, and so the communists were able to influence the natives because the Americans didn't realize they couldn't integrate with the culture, or they didn't try to integrate. And it just really impacted me at a young age, I guess because I
Yeah.
love people from all over the world and love to travel, and it just affected me. So
Well, fantastic. That actually gives me a couple of great books that I'm going to have to look into now.
Okay, good.
Well, I thank you so much for coming
Thanks,
out with us.
John.
Thanks for having coffee with us, and I'll turn you loose so you can chat with everybody.
I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Perfect. Thank you.